Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about this. This is such an emotional release, and it came out, well, let's see, about 3 hours ago this morning, just a couple of hours actually. So Savannah released the video of her young mom, and it's so cool to see her there as just a young mom with her two little girls, Savannah and her sister Annie. And, judging by the look, red bricks, that might still be the very house that she's in today. I'm trying to figure that out, but it could very well be. And so that came out this morning, and it was on her Instagram page, which is where she's been releasing a lot of it. And so far, it's been so stressful. It's been messages to the kidnapper or kidnappers.
Well, and I want to read her. I'm going to go to her page right now. I want to read the caption that she left on the video. Because I don't know, when I read it, it just kind of sent chills, down my arms here. She said, "Our lovely mom with a yellow heart. We will never give up on her. Thank you for your prayers and hope." mean, you just feel the desperation there.
Yeah, you do. And I would imagine, law enforcement is sharing information with them that they're not quite sharing with us yet. And so we don't know what the family knows, but I think she feels like, okay, it's time now for a tribute to my mom and a life well lived.
Mm-hmm.
So what we thought we would do is bring in a criminologist who specializes in kind of, I don't know if you want to say CSI. That's probably an overused phrase, but we've all watched and we've all learned that there are so many ways now that you can hone in on an investigation. So let's bring Debra Stonebarger in. Hi, Debra.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today. So I just want to read a little bit of your background. So you have extensive background fielding a lot of different areas, but field investigation, laboratory leadership. You have an expertise in forensic science, DNA and biological fluids at crime scenes. So what do you, first of all, just your overall thoughts of this case and what investigators have found so far?
Well, the findings have seemed to have been somewhat minimal so far. My overall thoughts, other than, I do have some sympathy and understanding of processing of a scene like this and this going on for as long as it has been going on. But this has provided, I think, a challenge to some of the local resources in Pima County. I think that they weren't anticipating the scope of the possible crime scene. And so I don't think that they were necessarily prepared in this case to deal with some of the evidence or what they saw at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you see law enforcement, the FBI comes in, they have a lot more resources, whether you want to call them more professional than the local deputies, et cetera, that are on the scene. But did it seem to you like they wrapped up that crime scene? I mean, within a day, you could just literally walk right up to the front of the house. And now there seem to be searches after searches. What might be unfolding here that could have been missed the first time around?
Well, it is problematic that the scene was cordoned off initially and then released too soon and then somewhat cordoned off again. However, we've seen that even as of today, people have been able to approach the door, or maybe that was yesterday, able to approach the door that shouldn't be able to get past crime scene and personnel of, whether it's investigators or laboratory personnel that might be there to help process the scene. So I believe that a primary problem with this, or I'm sorry, I should say a potential problem with this is just letting it go a little too soon. I think that there might have been an assumption made that maybe they didn't realize the potential for violence or a potentially violent crime, or that it was against the will and that how her will, and that it could expand to the degree that it has. I do think it's interesting that they have expanded the search to include the glove or gloves, depending on which source I look at, that may be similar to those used in the video that you are showing of the possible subject or suspect in this case, and that they're processing that perhaps along a roadway where it has been known for subjects who kidnap or commit other crimes, to be honest, as they're driving away from a scene, they may be discarding items of evidence, getting further away from the scene as they go. I do also think go ahead.
Oh, and Debra, I want to ask you about that glove. Let's say it's somehow connected, right? If this were potentially belonging to the suspect in this case, what DNA could be left on the glove? I mean, if it sat outside for so long, what DNA could it still have?
The ability to recover the wearer DNA from inside is substantial. I would not consider it to be problematic at all, even being out in the elements, because it would be they would be trying to extract it from the inside. So looking for sweat and cellular material from whoever was wearing the glove primarily on the exterior of the glove. It's also possible that there could be other DNA, whether it be belonging to a suspect or the victim for that matter, if it made contact with the victim. Additionally, on the exterior of the glove, there could be fingerprint evidence as well.
Why do you think there wasn't a trail of blood? I mean, we've seen several droplets, which they have confirmed were Nancy's blood at the doorstep, but it doesn't seem like it leads anywhere. What do you make of that?
I think that if she was bleeding, I think that they were able to, since it doesn't appear to have led to a car specifically, like it wasn't a lengthy trail. I think that it's possible that whatever the source of the blood was, it was, I mean, the easiest thing is it was probably covered up so that she didn't continue to bleed as she moved or was moved away from her home.
And, we had a former Phoenix police lieutenant who then went on to become a police chief with years and years of experience in Fort Worth, who joined us last hour. He said, just observing, as a criminologist, as you are, and I understand your specialties in DNA, but what are your main takeaways? His opinion was that it just did not look like a kidnapping, that kidnappers know who they're going after, that they arrive on the scene, they move very quickly, they move in and out, and that was really the opposite of what we saw. Now that you've had a chance to kind of step back after seeing all the various videos, what kind of an opinion have you formed?
It's a little hard to say at this point, but it certainly doesn't have an amount of forethought that you would expect if you're going to plan to to kidnap someone, especially someone who is a high profile, and that does appear. I mean, I think the video surveillance that they released does say a lot, because I mean, that person wasn't anticipating a Ring doorbell camera or similar, and so there's. I think that there might have been some level of planning, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with kidnapping, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with ransom. It could have been what started off as a robbery or breaking and entering, and then something else happened to change that situation.
Mm-hmm. And Debra, we only have about a minute left, so we'll wrap it up here pretty quickly. But overall, sometimes, we hear in cases it takes a while to get DNA results back, and testing takes longer than I think, folks would hope. But obviously in this case, would they be doing all of this DNA testing kind of on a more rapid speed type timeline to get results back sooner than, you maybe would in a typical case?
Absolutely. In a case like this, I would expect that there would be actually analysts on the clock, around the clock, which is not typical for your an average agency crime lab. It's an 8 to 5 job with the occasional crime scenes. In this case, I would expect there to be analysts present around the clock, including supervisors, and they have to have the ability to run multiple instruments. They also have to have the ability to review it with a technical reviewer before they can release anything. And so I would expect supervision and rapid DNA analysis, but still maintaining quality.
Okay, and are they even there on site? Your quick answer. We got 5 seconds.
Not DNA analysis on site.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right, Debra, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.